All right, everybody, welcome once again to Hey, Listen the Fuck Up. You've got David, the commish, the
Howdy.
guy who won this year. Yes, that too. It's bullshit.
I
You got
love
Ray.
He's
Ray,
not gonna
who
win this
finished a strong middle of the pack, and COVID 2020, who kind of gave it away at the end, and
I was gonna say
relied on some defensive players.
you came so damn close, and yet not quite close enough.
Right.
You know, the most frustrating thing is defensive players are very passive scorers. You know, their score relies on somebody else doing something, so it's very frustrating watching that.
Well, and that
but
game.
Let's get
yeah. Go ahead.
Let's move on to something everybody else.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
Exactly. Everybody cares about that, right? So let's get into the game. Let's get into off season. Let's get into what do people cost? What do extensions mean? What does franchise tag mean? What does a holdout mean? We've got examples of each of those. And I think let's start with James Robinson. That is the most pressing free agent and extension and franchise tag. And you can see it right there. As a franchise tag costs Rob $112 that he doesn't have. And it is $123 to extend James Robinson. So how did we arrive at that number of $112.40?
So $112.40 actually comes from the franchise tag formula, basically, right? So it's a little bit of mumbo jumbo, it's a little arcane, but it basically looks at where that player finished in the season and then bumps them up against the equal tier, right, of who's paid that much in that position. So if you're a top
James
five,
Robinson was a top 5 scorer, right?
Correct. He was a top 5 guy, so he gets bumped up against top 5 players. Now, franchise tags also, if you choose to extend them, which you can do, get bumped up to the next tier. Because James Robinson is already in tier 1, that gets bumped up to what I'm calling tier 0. And basically it adds 10% on top of that. James Robinson gets bumped up against guys like Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, all those other top paid guys. And that's how he ends up at $112.
All right.
He was unfortunate this year. I mean, he had a great season. And I mean, what sucks for his cost flying up is we had all the top running backs that didn't play an entire season. So James Robinson just soared right up into the top. None of these top guys were up there.
What it is, right? But that's why you pick them up.
That's why.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that's
Rob
why you
got
pick
it.
him up. And all I know is whatever franchise picked him up first, really, really, really smart.
Yeah, they did a good job. And they offloaded him before he cost $112.
Insanely smart. And then to unload him a little prematurely because he had a better season
probably cost the guy the championship.
It may have
could have
cost
helped
his
that franchise.
I was gonna say could have helped him in the championship.
Could have helped that franchise in a lot of games. Could have helped that franchise.
Yeah.
That franchise might not have been a wild card team. That franchise might have won the division, and then that franchise might have won the championship. But who's to say?
Who's to say?
But so this is the position that we're in. It is a unique case. I don't think we're going to see it every year.
No.
It's funny that it happens the first year. I mean, picking somebody up and then that player that you picked up being a top 5 running back overall for the season and escalating to this amount is not going to be something that we are going to see often. So it's a unique case, and it's a really kind of a neat case study for us.
Right. And so to see where we get this number of $112, right? The way I've got the spreadsheet drawn up is I did a lot of sorting and figuring out and whatever. Basically, a tier 1 is your top guys, your top 5 running backs, your top 10 wide receivers, that kind of thing, whatever it says in the rules. top 5 running backs on average get paid $109. The reason that we get 112 is because then you take a multiplier times their existing salary. So because he was getting paid $20, he gets a multiplier on top of that. This 109 average, 112.40 is the ultimate.
So that's how we arrive at that point.
Right.
All right.
And then it's the secondary extension added on to that to go for the tag, right? So that's where it puts our go for the extension. If you decided to not just tag him, but extend him, you had to tag him and then extend him because he was a 1-year contract player. So.
Bingo.
So let's segue from this one to a holdout. And
we can do that.
Most expensive holdout.
Right.
There's 2 holdouts.
Maybe
right?
Before we move on too far past that, let's talk about one of the other things, though. I don't know, Dave, you noticed there's some of them where it shows the tag fee of, like, let's say $16, but then the extension fee is like $40.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to know what makes that jump so high?
Yeah.
That's
so here's
Williams right there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's Chase Daniel, right? Chase Daniel's franchise tag, to take him for 1 more year, Mike would have to pay $3.65. To take him for 2 or more years, $19.45. Well, so why is that, right? So basically, that is, we go back here. So Chase Daniel, to be tagged, is in what we're calling tier 5, but to extend him, that gets bumped down or bumped up 1 tier, right?
To tier 4, and then he has to go with the average. 4.
So
it
tier
doesn't
5
matter. You get bumped up a tier. You get bumped up a tier for the extension.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tier 5 quarterbacks, these are your guys that are sitting on the bench, not getting paid much, and are, really, well, on average, getting paid $3.62 each. But tier 4 are guys that, you might actually have starting in a super flex spot. So they're actually worth some cash. That's why there's such a large discrepancy between the two.
And I just wanted to be able to point that out there, because I do think there's people that are probably looking at that going, how can that be so different? If it's only 10%, what we just said on the last one, or 15, but there's the difference because you end up going to the average of that next tier that's above, and it jumps your price away out there.
Right. The extra 10% is actually only for those tier 1 guys, because
exactly.
a tier above him, we have to multiply it by 10%.
Right.
The others are all based on actual costs.
Cool. Let's go to that holdout.
Really intelligent how you did that. I like how you did that. So let's go to the holdout. And the holdout is, Dave and I describe it in different ways, but it's the same thing. It's a player going from year 2 of his contract into year 1 of his contract. So he's entering the final year of the contract.
Right.
And if he outperforms and he meets certain criteria and outperforms the contract, then it's readjusted. Now, can it ever be adjusted down?
For holdout, that would likely not happen.
No,
in fact, it can't. It can't happen because your
numbers wouldn't qualify.
Well, yeah. So the numbers would put him, in the top whatever. But if he's being paid, so for holdout, to qualify for holdout, it's if you're in a top tier, to 1 or 2, I believe, depends on which position you're in. But then you look at that same number of players versus the top paid guys, right? For that so if we're talking wide receivers, right? If Robert Woods ends up in the top 15 players, you now look at his salary versus the top 15 paid wide receivers. If it's less than half the average of that, he's a holdout candidate. And you have to pay him 75% of that average of the top guys. So for Bobby Trees here, $18, unfortunately, wasn't quite half of the average. And so 75% of that average for the top wide receivers is $55.10.
So if he's making half, then it's okay.
Right. Yeah. So if we've got a player, right? I'll go to one of my guys, right? So, he's not going to show up here. But yeah, if you have a top 15 guy, top 15 wide receiver, and he's making more than half of that average of the top 15
so
guys.
So if he's making, it's $55. So if he's making $28, it's okay.
Right. Let me find it here. I don't remember if, it's probably one of my hidden tabs, unfortunately. But I figured out earlier on the season where that was per position, right? Where half of the top guys' average salary is per position. And then I just compared that to each guy. So just remember for these guys, again, it's them going from their number 2 or their 2 years left season to their last year. And it's also non-rookies. So if you drafted somebody and they're moving from their second to last rookie season, they're not eligible for holdout either.
Gotcha. So it's just a draft, it's a non-drafted player. It's somebody that you've picked up or picked up in the auction, a veteran player.
Correct.
Yeah.
A veteran player. Okay, so rookies do not hold out. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody on their rookie contract doesn't hold out. So.
Right.
Now let's say you have a rookie that's getting down there and you choose to extend them and they get extended and that for some reason doesn't put them to it. And then the next year they finish. Now all of a sudden were they a veteran player? I guess we have to probably talk about that.
I would say if they're on their second contract,
Then they're a veteran player.
Then they're a veteran player. Yeah.
They're no longer on their rookie contract. So there you go.
But they're on the rookie contract. How does that work? How does a rookie contract and then an extension? Does that make them? Does the extension mean they immediately make more money?
Yeah. So remember your rookies. Your rookies are typically going to be very cheaply paid compared to a lot of your other guys, right? You look at, let's say one of my rookies, DeAndre Swift, right? I think he makes like $17. If he goes and has a top 15 season even, now his extension cost is going to be in the $30-$40 range. So almost always, even those top guys, the number 1 overall picks and everything else, they're almost always going to have a higher extension cost than what their rookie contract was worth. But
you can wait until their rookie contract expires totally before you extend them.
No.
You don't. If you let it fully take its course and go to the last year, then now you're facing where you're going to come up to when their contract expires that you're going to have to either franchise tag and extend, and that means that's a new contract, or you let them go to free agency and you bid on them.
Right. And a franchise,
you can franchise tag.
Yes.
But then you can franchise tag and then extend off of the franchise tag.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. It has to be, the decision has to be made at the same time. So basically, if you've got a 1-year guy, let's take a look at Nick Foles of all people, right? If you franchise tagged him, you get him for 1 year at $3.65. But if you decide to extend him, you have to make that decision now, and you'd get him at $19.45 for multiple years.
Question being, how many times can you franchise tag a guy?
As many as you can afford.
As many as you can afford, yeah. Just remember that franchise tagging, and especially extending off of franchise tagging, is the most expensive way of keeping a player on your roster. If you extend prior to
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. If you extend prior to, let's say you get to that 2-year mark, he's going in next season or whatever, you decide to extend him now, it is going to be at a cheaper price point than if you wait 1 more year and now all of a sudden he could have an absolute breakout season and be more expensive, or B, is going to be more expensive anyway because now you bump him up to the next tier. And like we saw in the previous example, that next tier may be, tens of dollars more expensive than the previous tier he was in.
Okay. See, Perfect. This is informative stuff. I think we're saying we're talking about here. This clarifies
Absolutely.
Things for a lot of people. Boy, oh boy, I tell you that Quinnen Williams, Ray. Thank you, whoever signed Nick Bosa.
Yeah, right.
Making that $48.
Yeah, I was gonna say the defensive end market in our league is just whoa.
It's crazy, right? So
defensive ends and tight ends for that matter.
Yeah.
You got Kittle and you got Kelsey. who just absolutely destroy the tight end market. I've got Waller, right? He's like the third highest paid tight end in the league, I think, and he still will qualify for a holdout as soon as he reaches the number 2, because those two guys with Kelsey and Kittle are so far above the average and pull the average so high that it actually brings it out of the realm of possibilities for the like normal tight ends, we'll say.
Yeah, and
It's absolutely.
Quinnen Williams is hitting the free agent market, because guess what? There's no, I'm not paying $19 or $40 or whatever for, while his numbers were decent last year. You can get that production for way less money.
You heard it here, folks.
You can get that production for $1.
There's going to be a bargain on the auction.
But you could, look, you could get that. There's a couple of people, Romeo Okawara. I think I said his name right. He was a guy that you could get for almost the same amount of points.
Right.
There's a number of guys you can get in there for,
Let's look at Robert Tonyan. You were talking about the tight end market and everything. Let's talk about Robert Tonyan and where that would put him. I mean, with his costs and all that. Yeah, I mean, Robert Tonyan had a big season, like looked really good. Him and Waller now are competing. Like, is his tag price higher than what you're paying for Waller?
It's close. I believe I'm paying around $20 for Waller right now, and Tunyan's franchise tag cost would be $19, and then his extension cost would be $62. So if Travis wants to keep him for multiple years, he can extend him for $62 a year. It might not be a bad idea, because tight ends are such a hard position to fill. Right? It might not be a bad idea to just continuously franchise tag him, right?
That's probably the route I would go. I mean, I would tag him this year, and honestly, you never know. Like, he had a great year. Is he going to be used the same next year? Are they going to pick up a tight end in the draft that they maybe like more, or there's a free agent that comes open that comes in? You never really know. Those Green Bay tight ends, they can be great one year and then not the next.
Exactly.
So the way that this franchise tag works, I gotta say, you've got 2 franchise tags available to you as a franchise, right?
As the rule currently states, yes, we are actually looking at potentially changing the number, but we'll get to
Ray,
that.
what are your thoughts on that? You're on the rules committee. You're on the rules committee, so you should probably maybe not say anything.
Let me just say this: there's a lot of stuff that's been gone over, and that we are going to have a in-depth rules discussion, going over a lot of different rules. So for the time being, for this season only, you are going to see a bump up in the number of franchise tags allowed this year, because I don't think people necessarily understood how they could handle in-season pickups or options for that. There's multiple options on the table that we're going to go over and discuss that for years going forward, to be able to make it so you wouldn't need as many franchise tags. And I just don't think people are going to be able to afford multiple franchise tags every year.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 5 franchise tags potentially for this year. Let's take who we got. Travis here. His bottom 5 guys add up to already $12. I mean, and those are $1 guys that he had, that now all of a sudden he has to,
he's paying $7 more, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if he decides, well, Tunyon did awesome for me, I'm gonna keep him at $19.30. Do I keep Hewitt? No, probably not. Do I keep Ogba? Yeah, maybe, sure, whatever. And you decide to pick 5 guys. Now all of a sudden you're paying almost $40.
Yeah,
for your franchise tags. You got a draft you got to think about that you got to keep enough money back to do.
You
got free agent auction coming up that you better have some powder dry that you can pick on some of these guys.
Look, I had a talk with Dave the other night. We have to have the draft before free agency, because otherwise people are going to blow their money in free agency and then forfeit draft picks. And that's a competitive advantage.
See, I go both ways. I think that we're all grown ass men here and we're general managers of our team, right? We ever know our money slots. And if you know that you've blown too much money and you can't afford to do all the draft picks you're going to do, you better fucking trade those draft picks. Or you better figure out you're going to draft somebody and then all of a sudden they're going to get let go to the free agency. Like, I think it's
there's got to be a punishment. There's got to be a punishment if you spend too much money and now you can't make a second or third.
Here's my thing. I think if you don't
be
have
able to trade
money,
that pick,
you shouldn't be able to draft. I think
you shouldn't be able to trade the pick. You shouldn't be able to draft. It's like we need to make sure that people aren't just you have to allocate money. You have to allocate the money.
Yeah. I think that you have to have the money. I mean, going into the draft, you better have the money before the draft starts. Or when it comes up to your pick, you better have the money for that pick at the time. Otherwise, that pick isn't made.
If you don't have the money, if you don't have the money to pay for that draft pick,
you don't get to draft that pick.
You need to forfeit that pick. You cannot trade that pick away. It just is a forfeited pick.
I don't have a problem with you trading that pick away if somebody's willing to trade for it, because you're just maneuvering.
I'm fine with trading the pick away so long as it is done in a reasonable amount of time during the draft. Trading away prior to the draft pick is absolutely fine. If we have a in-person draft or a Zoom draft like we did last year, maybe we give everybody a 4-minute timer and
you get
abide by it really strict. And if you can't afford a guy and you're looking at it and you're like, shoot, I really can't afford this first round draft pick.
We should know that. But we should know that going into the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll know what your cap space is. I mean, it shows on the front page of the website, right?
Well, so and that's the thing. After the auction, you might be looking at it and go, okay, these are the draft picks I have. I don't have the money to afford these. I need to trade some of these draft picks, or I need to trade one of these players that I just bought, or I need to trade one of these players that I had on my team to free up some cash so I have it for my draft picks.
Right.
And if you don't, that's on you. And your pick comes up to you and nobody's willing to trade with you to take that pick off your hands, you're eating that and nobody's getting picked in that slot.
Right. I mean, you may end up trading away, a second round pick for next year's fourth, just so you can get rid of it and get something.
So you get something back, right?
Yeah. So I mean, right now it's showing here your balances, and once you all get your franchise tags and extensions back to me, I'll adjust everybody and then drop everybody else. So here, by the time you get me your franchise tag players, this balance will be for real. And you will be able to go back and look at, okay, which picks do I have? You look in the rule book, you look at the rookie draft, you come down to this chart here and say, okay, I know I've got the 7th first round pick. I know I've got, this pick, and you're going to know how much money you need to have to go into the draft. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I agree with Ray here. We picked the owners for this league because we're all very experienced fantasy guys and we're grown ass men, right? Budget.
Yeah.
A lot of us are in fields that require good budgeting practices, right? Just make sure you got enough money going into this thing.
Yeah, it's on you if you don't, man. Like so you may end up trading a second away for a fourth. And I'm more than willing to make that trade for you. Just keep me in mind if you got a second round pick and you need to get rid of it. I'll gladly give you a fourth.
I will gladly play you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
That's right. Absolutely.
Look, I'm still waiting to get some fruit out of your stupid first round pick, Ray.
Yeah, maybe you will.
It's like 8th overall now. It's not even really that great a pick, even though your team was a dud.
I think it's 6th. I think it's a sixth overall pick, maybe something like that.
Damn it! It should be first.
I know it should have been, except for I didn't even take last. It's crazy. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go. I gotta get going here, but I appreciate
Ray,
you guys.
Great to see you again, buddy.
Great to see you, Ray.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so this is the draft picks for this year, right?
Yeah. Yep. And unfortunately, until we roll over to the next franchise year, which I believe happens after the Super Bowl, so after this week, I'll be able to upgrade this to next year. It will not show where those are You just got to go back to, you know, I know that I've got Kevin's pick. I know Kevin picks 7th this year, so I know I've got 1.7. You know, you look at through all these other ones, you'll know who it is as soon as we know, or as soon as it can roll it over to next year. I believe it starts popping in where those picks actually are.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting, man. It's going to be
I'm really
very interesting.
Really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do, if people trade more. I mean, you look at Ray, or you even for that matter, and just all the picks that you all have accumulated.
Ray has got a lot of picks. He's got a lot of picks, and it's gonna. All it takes is one person to fall in love with one of those picks.
Exactly. So, no, it's gonna be super interesting for sure. Yeah. So I mean, I've got a few things to do yet. I'm gonna post up all these for everybody here, hopefully tonight or maybe tomorrow. With kind of an explainer, if nobody wants to come watch a 40-minute video or whatever of us chatting about it, at least explain, hey guys, you need to pick out, for your decisions, you absolutely need to tell me, like by the end of the week, if you're keeping your holdout players or not. So like Justin Simmons, sorry, bud, you were awesome. You were awesome this year. I am not keeping you for $17.
No.
Yep. And then you need to go through and pick up to 0 to 5 players that you either will franchise tag or extend.
It's kind of funny. You got Giovanni Bernard. I've got, these guys, obviously Mike Davis, you're not going to franchise.
Yeah.
Giovanni Bernard, you're not going to franchise. There's a bunch of guys on here that are just not going to make sense. In people, I really don't understand the desire to extend the number of franchise tags available.
Yeah, I personally, and I'll explain the reason that I put some certain things in the rules, and the limit for franchise tags and the limits for certain other things, right, is try and push as much of the free agent play, like interplay between teams, to the off season as possible, right? There's enough going on in season, right, that fantasy football is fun. Let the real key part of a dynasty league is that it's year round, right? I mean, we're gonna miss a couple of months because the season's done, and you want to watch playoff football and not really think about your fantasy team. But guess what? I've got trade deals brewing in the background already that I'm already talking to folks about. After the Super Bowl, trades open up, everything's good to go.
It's funny. I don't recall getting a message from you about any trades.
You know what? When you play a guy for the championship and you beat a guy for a championship, are any of his players really worth it?
That's a great, as much as I want to get all mad about that, that's a pretty funny answer.
Oh, I love it. No, but yeah, no, I mean, it's really, to be honest with you, Nick, I'm very happy with my team where it sits right now. It can always be better. And I'm always willing to take any trade offers. And, so like I say, with a few things sitting in the background, kind of stirring, but I don't need to do anything at the moment. But yeah,
no.
rolling through some of these. Yeah. Young Hoku, I love you, man. You were awesome this year. You were the number 1 kicker. No way in hell am I paying 6.5 for you. Sorry.
Why would you ever put a franchise tag on any kicker?
Yeah,
because Young Hoku, he was good, whatever, but you can get him for maybe $2.
Yeah,
maybe 3.
Maybe, very maybe.
We saw it this year. Like, I don't know. I think my original kicker, I dumped him and I got a different kicker. And
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of these 1 year guys, right? I shouldn't say a lot of, every single 1 year guy. That cap hit, that 20% cap hit that you were taking throughout the year, as soon as the league year rolls over, that goes away for the 1 year guys. 2 year guys, 3 year guys, 4 year guys, those guys, that rolls over one more year. But for anybody that was 1 year, that goes away. There can be a lot of movement, and yeah, you might put yourself in a slight bind, right? But 20 cents at a time, that's not going to do much in season.
20 cents isn't really going to hurt, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about, sir?
No, I think we're good, man.
Right
Unless
on.
you want to talk about home improvement and painting baseboards and how miserable that is.
I have not had the pleasure of doing that in many a year. However, I'm thinking about putting a wood floor here in my office, and I'm really not looking forward to that. So,
Are you going to do it yourself?
I was thinking about it, man. Like, my brother did one, and he said it was not that bad with the laminate tile stuff that they've got now. It's super easy.
Yeah.
So,
well, are you still recording?
I am. We should probably say goodbye.
We should maybe say goodbye to the recording, and then I can talk to you off of this. But if you need a flooring guy, I know somebody.
Right on. I'm gonna stop recording now.